A Reddit user asked people to share the story of something that happened to them when they were alone at night. And this one might just keep you up at night. My grandma passed away when I was a kid. She died very suddenly of a heart attack when she was out grocery shopping. Her death wasn't all that surprising. She'd had several heart attacks before, but it still hurt like hell when it happened. The thing is, my grandparents were very strict, and they never let me stay up past 9 p.m. no matter what. So I didn't really ever see my grandma or grandpa after about 6 p.m., but I saw them a lot during the day. We'd have lunch together and then watch Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. My grandpa would always get mad at the answers that were too easy. Then we'd go to bed. Yeah, I miss those days. I wish I could go back to them. After my grandma passed away, my grandpa seemed like he aged about 5 years, became weaker and weaker, and eventually he passed away from lung cancer when I was about 12. As you can imagine, the house felt pretty empty without both of them. There was no one to play checkers with or watch TV with. I remember thinking how nice it would be if they were here, so I could talk to them even if they couldn't respond. It would just be nice to hear their voices again. One night, a few months after my grandpa died, I was home alone and watching TV. I was probably trying to stay awake past my 9 p.m. bedtime. I don't know why I was trying to do that, because my parents were out for the night, and no one was coming home anytime soon. Well, I heard a voice behind me. I turned around and saw my grandma standing right there next to me wearing her favorite red cardigan. I remember screaming, jumping off the couch, and running to the front door. I flung it open, expecting to find someone outside, but no one was there. When I closed the door, my grandma was gone. This happened so fast I couldn't wrap my head around it. I told myself it must have been some weird trick of the light. I was probably imagining things because I missed her so much. I tried to go back to watching TV, but I couldn't. I just kept thinking about how my grandma had come to visit me. Maybe she was waiting for me outside and wanted to take me with her. The thoughts kept me awake until my parents came home. For a while after that, I heard her voice occasionally when I was home alone. It wasn't anything scary or mean. It was just kind of there. I remember thinking maybe my imagination is finally catching up with me. Maybe I am going crazy, but it was nice to hear her voice again. At least I thought it was nice. When I was about 14, I moved into my own room. I spent hours decorating it and making it perfect. I remember hanging these 2 posters on my walls. They were movie posters for Dead Poets Society and Good Will Hunting. Both great movies. But I guess the voices were great too, because at night I started hearing them again. It wasn't my grandma anymore. Instead, I heard my grandpa. I'd hear him pacing around my room and talking about how nice it was to be back home. Then he'd start tapping on my wall where the movie poster was hanging. He'd also say stuff like, "Robbie, I'm proud of you." I don't know why he was proud of me. I was a pretty average student. I didn't think I was that smart. My grades weren't that good, and I didn't do much with my life. But I did appreciate his comments. I felt like I could hear my grandparents sometimes when I needed them the most. So I just rolled with it and stopped trying to fight it. One night I was laying in my bed listening to my grandpa pace back and forth. I knew he was there because I could hear him moving around. I didn't want to turn on the lights because I didn't want him to leave. So I started asking questions. I said, "Hey, Grandpa, how are things over there?" Then I asked him to tap on the wall twice, if he was happy. He tapped 3 times. I asked him if he was proud of me, and he tapped 4 times. I was kind of scared at this point, but I couldn't help but feel like I had a part of my family back. Sure, he wasn't really there, but it was comforting to know that he was looking out for me. Then one night I heard my grandpa talking in a voice that wasn't his. It sounded like my grandpa, but it also sounded like someone else. I couldn't make heads or tails of it. I didn't know what to do, so I put my headphones on and started playing music. I thought it would drown out whatever was happening, but it just made everything sound worse. I took off my headphones and it sounded like my grandpa was arguing with another man. I couldn't understand the words, but I could tell by their tone that they were getting mad at each other. I remember feeling so scared. I was crying and yelling for my mom. But then I realized she wouldn't be able to hear me. She wasn't home yet. What was I supposed to do? I stayed in my room hiding under my covers until the sun came up. Then I got out of bed and went to the bathroom to look at myself. I looked pale and weak, splashed water on my face and tried to calm down. I told myself it was all in my head. I was just tired and overworked. Later that day, my mom picked up my headphones off the floor and looked at me seriously. She asked me if I was hearing voices again. I lied to her and said no, but I knew she could tell I was lying. That night, she slept in my room with me until the morning. I appreciated it, but I didn't want her to think that I was crazy. I didn't want her to worry about me. As the months passed, the voices got louder and louder. It got to the point where I couldn't ignore them anymore. They followed me everywhere I went. They spoke to me constantly. I heard my grandpa and the other guy fighting more often too. I was really worried about what they were saying. I didn't know what to do. The worst part was that whenever I tried to talk to someone about it, they'd either laugh in my face or tell me to get over it. Hearing the voices drove me insane. I couldn't concentrate in school. I couldn't sleep at night. All I could do was sit in my room and listen to them. That's when I decided enough was enough. I packed up my things and ran away from home. I walked around aimlessly until I found a church. I went inside and asked if I could talk to someone. A woman sitting in an office offered me some tea and asked me what was wrong. I told her about my grandparents and the other man. She seemed nice and understanding. She didn't laugh at me or tell me to get over it. She actually listened. She offered to pray with me, but I declined. I thanked her for her kindness and went back out onto the streets. I wandered around for a few more hours until I saw a sign that read, "Help Wanted." I was desperate. I didn't care what job it was. I just needed somewhere to sleep. I applied and was hired on the spot. That's how I met my wife. She was the manager of that store. She helped me get my life back on track. I still hear the voices sometimes, but they're not as loud or as frequent. Now I know that I'm not alone.